Now, here's a young man with a real gleam in his eye. What does he see? A beautiful blonde? Nope. He's got cars on his mind. And he just caught sight of a glamorous Desoto sportsman. Does he want it? You bet he does. Of course, before he buys it, some salesman will have to do a lot of talking about options and price and allowance and what the wife wants. But the point is, this prospect wants that Desoto. Desoto is all he has on his mind. Too bad more prospects don't feel the same way. Now, you take shopping Seamus here. He's not sure what he wants. Oh, he wants a new car, all right. As a matter of fact, he intends to buy one soon, so he can surprise his wife on their anniversary. But which car? He likes Desoto, but he likes Pontiac, too. So far, he hasn't heard anything to convince him that one car is superior to the other. Seamus needs somebody to help him make up his mind. Well, he's heading to the right place to get that help. Because this fellow with his back to the camera is Abbott Townsend, a Desoto salesman who has the straight facts on Pontiac. Before Seamus gets in here, let's ask Abbott his opinion of how the cars compare on the surface.
Desoto versus Pontiac? I don't know what you fellows would say, but here's my honest opinion. Desoto reminds me of a handsome, well-trained young athlete, trim, slim, and alert. While Pontiac, well, Pontiac is a gentleman, all right, but a gentleman slightly overfed, slightly overdressed, and slightly out of breath. But seriously, Desoto's new design is first of all a unified design. The front section looks like it belongs with the rear, and the rear section looks like it belongs with the front. So the whole design hangs together. Desoto's strong, graceful color sweep carries your eye the full length of the car. And both front and back, Desoto's long, slender, tapering lines express forward speed and motion. It looks like a car on the move. But Pontiac? Well, forward of the windshield posts, Pontiac is one design, and the lines, while rather stark, are clean enough. But backward from the windshield post, Pontiac's rear section could well belong to an entirely different car. The lines dip, bend, reverse, and swirl, without much logic, really. And worst of all, Pontiac's bulky color sweep focuses your eye at the windshield and then pulls it back, away from the front of the car, giving the effect of half a car speeding in reverse. But getting back to Desoto, we sell a longer, wider car than Pontiac, almost 8 inches longer, as a matter of fact. We have a sleek look in a bigger package. In silhouette, the Desoto is long and low, with the roof of the riding compartment emerging naturally and gracefully from the down-sweeping hood and rear deck, and sloping gently inward from the sides. By contrast, the Pontiac silhouette is stubby and squarish, front, rear, and center. The vertical windshield posts give the blunt, chopped-off effect of the flying bridge on a cabin cruiser. Notice how slim and trim the Desoto overhead really is, here where it flows into the cap of the windshield, just like a hardtop. And see how thick the Pontiac overhead is, how abruptly Pontiac's roofline and windshield cap come together. Now, look at this Desoto front-end treatment. Those short vertical bars widen the car. That trim bumper has a sophisticated look. You can see the artist's touch in this car. Compare all this with the heavy-handed touch you see in the bulbous bars above Pontiac's bumper. I'll lay you a small wager that those fat pieces of chrome come off in the 56 models. And in contrast to the eager look achieved by Desoto's hood line, Pontiac cascades rivers of chrome down the hood in a decoration that would be more appropriate on a jukebox. And incidentally, there are 18 bright strips to catch sunlight and reflected into the driver's eyes.
Well, that was a personal, off-the-cuff opinion by a salesman who knows enough about Pontiac to be able to talk to a comparison shopper. He isn't that blunt when he talks to shopper Seamus, of course. Let's learn exactly what Townsend does say to Seamus after giving him a general view of the car. Seamus has indicated his liking for Pontiac, of course, so Townsend now takes up one of the big differences. Let's listen.
We're as proud of our new Horizon windshield as we are of any styling feature on the car this year, Mr. Seamus. It's the first true, full wraparound windshield, and that's why it doesn't have any grotesque, chopped-off look. You see, our glass wraps around at the top as well as at the bottom. If you've studied the Pontiac windshield, you know that it wraps around only at the bottom. In other words, Desoto has moved the entire windshield post back several inches, while Pontiac, in effect, has simply rotated the bottom of the post back into a vertical position. As a result, Desoto's windshield still looks like it belongs on the car. It retains that streamlined, going-ahead look that Pontiac, for example, has been obliged to sacrifice. Now, if you'll step inside, I'll show you something. This is the blind spot Pontiac retains by wrapping around only at the bottom. Now, see for yourself what wide, clear, wonderful visibility you get with our New Horizon swept-back windshield. It really makes you feel that you're in command of the road, doesn't it, Mr. Seamus? You feel a lot safer because you know you are safer when you have such an unobstructed view, both ahead and out of the corner of your eye.
Yes, and these grid charts prove that DeSoto's windshield vision is better than Pontiac's. We drove the cars up to the same chart to take these photographs. Notice the accuracy. See how the vertical line number 0 falls at the same point on each hood? Now, see how the DeSoto top corner wraparound shows the line marked 80, shows even the line marked 90. Pontiac visibility starts dropping off at the 60 line. There's proof for your prospects. Then there are DeSoto's dependable electric windshield wipers, which can be operated at any speed the driver wishes. They are powerful, constant speed wipers. Pontiac still uses undependable vacuum wipers. Now it looks like Townsend is telling his prospect about the extra advantages of DeSoto's new interior styling. Let's get back and listen.
And this is a car your wife is sure to love, sir. I've yet to meet a lady who doesn't rave about the luxury look of the colors and fabrics in this DeSoto. Notice how harmonious this interior is, with just enough contrast in the upholstery to emphasize the color matching in headliner, carpeting, and instrument panel. There are 3 handsome color-keyed interiors to match exterior colors. There's a combination in green, one in blue, and one featuring gray seats with ivory bolsters. This combination looks pretty good, don't you think? There's more than glamour, though. These fabrics are practical. You can clean off ordinary dirt with a damp cloth. But it's the roominess of this interior that I'm sure you're interested in. And believe me, sir, this DeSoto living room, as we call it, is one of the most spacious any car ever had. It's 4.5 inches longer than Pontiac's, for example. Those inches make a big difference to DeSoto drivers and passengers who want to stretch out and be comfortable. You have more room for your legs. Matter of fact, you can have the front seat all the way back without cramping the back seat passengers. You have more hip room in the DeSoto than you'd have in a Pontiac, too, Mr. Seamus, and more elbow room and more shoulder room in this bigger car. And such comfortable seats, too. Just feel that wonderful, firm springiness. There isn't one other car in the DeSoto price range that gives you chair-high seating comfort like this, Pontiac included. I'd like you to just feel this thick overhead insulation that we have in the DeSoto. It hardly seems possible, but Pontiac doesn't have any overhead padding to shut out noise and heat and cold. Nor is there any padding to cover the concealed I-beam Pontiac has between the roof and the overhead fabric. A lovely thing to knock your head against if you should be suddenly lurched forward in one of Pontiac's cars.
A good point, because Pontiac has a real skull scraper up there. Another big DeSoto benefit that Townsend will cover sooner or later is the wise planning that went into DeSoto's luggage compartment. We put the gas filler pipe in unusable space behind the spare. We put the torsion bar hinging way up in unusable space. But Pontiac? Well, the Pontiac trunk might look big to some prospect, so tell him that those jutting hinges protrude into his loading space. Yes, DeSoto's luggage compartment is better planned on the inside and better looking on the outside. In a moment, we'll see some more sales-making facts.
Now, Mr. Seamus, I honestly believe that this is how an instrument panel ought to look. This new Desoto panel is so beautifully proportioned, so clean and uncluttered, that you enjoy just sitting down and looking at it. Notice how easy it is to read all the dials at a glance and how accessible all the control knobs are. It really is beautiful, isn't it? And the soft tone finish on top of the instrument panel is not only rich-looking and pleasing in itself, but it absorbs glare, spares your eyes a lot of punishment while you're driving. Of course, there'll never be any glare from the instrument lights because they're recessed under the brow. Pontiac's panel, as I recall, is quite gingerbready by comparison, with a lot of chrome and polished curved surfaces to catch sunlight and reflect it into your vision. I think the face of Desoto's glove compartment is especially good-looking, don't you? And incidentally, the glove compartment itself is unusually wide and roomy. And how about this smart steering wheel? It has real depth, doesn't it? And the same clean, uncluttered look that distinguishes all of Desoto's forward-looking style this year. You've probably noticed that there is no selector lever on the steering column at all. That's another Desoto first, Mr. Seamus. It'll be interesting to watch our competitors follow suit. Desoto's selector is on the instrument panel, alongside the ignition, lights, and other controls. As a matter of fact, that's what we call it, the flight control lever. You scarcely ever need to use it. It's in neutral when you start. You turn the key on to start the engine, flick the flight control lever into drive, and forget it the rest of the trip. Desoto has taken the logical step with a modern transmission.
Yes, indeed. And as Townsend pointed out, only Desoto provides this great convenience. Pontiac still has its selector lever in the same place as a standard transmission shift lever. But of course, Pontiac does not have power flight. Only Desoto has that years ahead automatic transmission. Years ahead of Pontiac's dual range hydromatic, certainly. Townsend pointed this out during the demonstration. Let's listen.
Hydromatic's history is rather interesting. Back in 1939, when it was first introduced by GM, Hydromatic was a big thing. It suited the requirements of drivers of 16 years ago. But Hydromatic has had to make some strange changes to keep up with the industry. Several years ago, they actually added a hand shift operation on their automatic transmission, so a Hydromatic owner could get some gas economy on the highway without sacrificing pickup in traffic. Then they found that folks forgot to hand shift. So this year, in city range, it automatically shifts from third to fourth gear at 70 miles an hour. And in country range, below 28 miles an hour, it shifts from fourth to third gear when the accelerator is depressed the slightest bit. Which means you can't get a medium amount of acceleration at slow speeds in country range. It lurches forward when you touch the gas, and you risk climbing the bumper in front of you. Well, if all that sounds pretty complicated, it's because Hydromatic is a complicated, outmoded transmission that they've tried to modernize through a long history of compromises. Today's buyer has a right to expect a smooth, dependable, easy-to-use automatic transmission. And so, Desoto offers modern power flight. You stay in one driving range from one end of the trip to the other, and you always get maximum performance, whether you're in busy traffic or speeding along a superhighway. And as you'll soon discover for yourself, power flight operation is so smooth and quiet that you're never conscious of any upshift or downshift, any roughness of any kind. That's because engine torque is increased or multiplied by an oil-filled torque converter. Honestly, Mr. Seamus, power just swells in the power flight torque converter like sound in a pipe organ, and it comes out just as rich and smooth.
Yes, and power flight plus full-time coaxial power steering makes the new Desoto a revelation in all-around driving ease. For full-time power steering eliminates 80% of the work of turning the wheel, and it works all the time. Desoto's full-time power steering doesn't cut in and out like Pontiac's, which makes a guessing game out of steering and disconcerts a great many Pontiac drivers. And now, what does salesman Townsend have to say about two of the most important attributes of a personal or family car, namely riding comfort, and riding safety. Here he is again.
And isn't this DeSoto a beautiful riding car, Mr. Seamus? Have you noticed how evenly it holds the road on sharp turns and how smoothly it takes the bumps? And on a road like this, well, this is really a pretty rough road. No big chuck holes or anything, but you can see how pitted the road surface is. It's the kind of road that sets up almost a continuous shake and chatter on the average car. But this DeSoto stays firm and quiet. That's because the body and chassis are one of the strongest, most rigid combinations ever built. It uses full box-section side rails right to the end of the frame. Pontiac uses single-channel rails. So in a DeSoto, you'll get less twist, less shake. That means you can easily keep full positive control on any road surface. And the body will stay quiet and rattle-free far longer. And unlike Pontiac, this car has Auraflow shock absorbers. They work on the deepest chuck holes to help you keep control. And they also work on slight road irregularities, so you always ride comfortably and quietly. What's more, DeSoto is 2 inches longer where inches count between the wheels. The long wheelbase helps level out the ride and allows a better weight distribution. Pontiac recognizes that fact by making the Star Chief longer than their cheaper cars. So, those are the reasons why DeSoto offers the kind of riding comfort you and your wife want, Mr. Seamus. Now, when it comes to safety, well, I want you to notice something at that next intersection. See how easy it is to use either foot on that big suspended brake pedal? There's an important difference.
Townsend is going to talk about safeguard hydraulic brakes and then point out that you can always stop with DeSoto's power brakes. Even if anything happened to cut off the power, the brakes would still respond to ordinary foot pressure. Because DeSoto power brakes have 50% more reserve pedal travel than Pontiac's brakes. Townsend saves under-the-hood action for the climax of his demonstration with the prospect behind the wheel. And when the prospect, like Mr. Seamus, has been exposed to Pontiac, here is how Townsend tells his story.
If it's horsepower you want, Mr. Seamus, this DeSoto Fire Dome has got it. 185 compared to Pontiac's 180. But extra power is only one of the reasons for choosing a DeSoto V8. For instance, regular gasoline is recommended for the Fire Dome V8 engine. Pontiac says premium gas preferred, but DeSoto's V8 performs just as well on the lower-priced variety. That's because Fire Dome combustion chambers are practically perfect for clean, efficient firing, for getting maximum push out of every molecule of fuel mix. But the irregular shape of Pontiac's combustion chamber collects carbon. Excess carbon means you'll get engine knock. The results are less usable power and more driver annoyance. All this on the most expensive gas. And, of course, DeSoto's engine design gives you smoother idling, faster getaway, and tremendous cruising and reserve power. This demonstration ride has proved that to you, I'm sure, Mr. Seamus. And you'll appreciate Fire Dome's brilliant performance and economical operation even more as you roll up the miles, because here is an engine that actually improves with use.
Yes, and there are a score of important points that involve your customer's safety and comfort. His car's performance, convenience, value, economy, his all-around driving satisfaction, and his pride of ownership. And when you demonstrate the Fire Dome V8 engine, power flight, and full-time coaxial power steering, then your prospect knows that DeSoto excels. You can tell him about the DeSoto superiorities in dozens of body and chassis and engine refinements, every one of them contributing its share to the extra high quality that has always been DeSoto's pride and can become your prospect's pride. Not all of these refinements are apparent to the naked eye when the car is new, but 2 years from now, on your used car lots, they will be very apparent in cars that are still as roadworthy as when they were new, still clean and powerful, still safe and profitable. And this year especially, you can point out that DeSoto excels in style, for only DeSoto has a look that's completely new to the public. The new Desoto is beautiful. More beautiful, more powerful than ever, safer, more comfortable, and easier to drive. It was on those points of comparison that shopper Seamus made his decision. Yes, his surprise was a success when he decided that the smartest car a smart buyer can drive and the smartest car a smart driver can buy is the smartest of the smart cars, Desoto.